Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of How to Rip. In today's episode I'm going to do a comparison on the Firewire Seaside and the Go Fish. They're two of the world's most popular surfboards. If you have a look at the views on YouTube, you can see the Go Fish has almost 800,000 and the Seaside has got almost 500,000. That's over 1 million views, which is a huge amount. So a lot of you out there might be deciding between a Go Fish or a Seaside. So I'm going to talk about my experience and how I found each board and some pros and cons of each. And let me just give you the quick tip that whichever way you choose to go, you can't lose because both these boards are unreal. Alright guys, let's start off with discussing a few things. I'm about 5'9" and around 78 kilos. Now I decided to get the 5'2" Seaside and the 5'3" Go Fish, both are in stock dims. Now I also decided to roll with the fins that were designed for those boards specifically. So I've got the K2 Future Kills on the Go Fish, and then here I've got the Quad Machado set. Personally, I found that both of those fin setups worked really well for me, and I didn't have to go out and try any different sort of fin setups. Let's have a closer look at each board individually. Let's start off with the Go Fish. The footage here from this session was pretty recent, and up until this point I'd been surfing the Seaside a lot, so this gave me a really clear idea of how the Go Fish felt different to the Seaside. One thing I noticed straight away was that when you put this board on rail, it doesn't quite have the same responsiveness and energetic feel that the Seaside has. The Go Fish still goes really well obviously, however, sometimes when you put it on rail, it just wants to stick on that direction that you put it on from the get-go. As you can see in this cut back here, as I was coming through, I sort of caught my rail there, and that was because I was trying to push it a little bit harder than it was going to on that angle. If we have a look at this wave here, you can see that I sometimes had to nurse a couple of turns because it can feel really loose, as you can see in that turn there. So sometimes I felt like I had to hold back a little bit in my maneuvers. In saying all of that, as the session went on and I started to get more familiar with how this board went and how it reacted, and I got my feet in a better position, the board started to come alive and I started to really enjoy it again. But it was clear to me and my friend here, after we had a quick chat, that the Seaside was definitely my favourite. So let's have a closer look at why I love the Seaside. So if we have a look at this wave here, you can see that there is so much drive when you put the Seaside on rail. It's actually unreal. I mentioned that sometimes on the Go Fish it felt like I had to hold back on my turns, where on the Seaside I felt like I could lean really hard into my maneuvers and I didn't have to worry about the tail sliding, and if I wanted the tail to slide I had that control and I knew how it would react, whereas sometimes with the Go Fish it'd be really loose and a little bit harder to control. Something worth discussing is the construction differences between the two boards. The Go Fish is made from LFT and the Seaside is made from helium, and my understanding is that the helium construction is a little bit lighter and a little bit more flexy, and I could definitely feel that, especially in small waves like this and turns like this. The board feels really lively and energetic, whereas sometimes the Go Fish felt a little bit heavier with not as much spring. However, I was really lucky to have one session caught on camera on the Go Fish, which is where I felt like the board was going really well for me. I'd been surfing it a lot and I understood the board quite well by this point in time. And this is for anyone out there who's looking for getting a Go Fish. Like I said, you cannot lose. Have a look at this here. You can see that the board goes really well on rail, but it also gives you the ability to throw the tail and do more progressive maneuvers. You can also see that tracky feeling that I was speaking about from the session earlier, where you'd put it on rail and it was almost a bit harder to control. Well, once you surf this board for a long time, as I was at this point in time in this session, you start to get used to that and it doesn't really affect you anymore. And it's at that time where you feel like you've got total control over where this board goes and how it reacts. To gain a better understanding of how these boards actually perform differently, I want to do a comparison, comparing similar turns on the Go Fish to the Seaside. We're going to break it down so that you can see clearly the differences that I'm talking about and what I felt under my feet. So this was my last wave in the session and it was probably one of the better waves of the session. By this stage I was used to the board and how it would react. Here you can see that the board's quite loose, but by this point in time, I felt like I could control that looseness and control the tail slide. And in addition to that, I felt like I could also control that tracky feeling of when you put the board on rail and it wants to stay at that angle. I was used to that and I could adjust my body and my weight accordingly. But one thing that I really did feel was that this board wasn't as lively as the Seaside. Sometimes it just felt like it was a little bit flat. Here we see the Seaside. I can't overemphasize how much drive this board has when you put it on rail. It feels unreal and I've never felt it from any other board that I've surfed. Whether that's the quad or the really deep double concave between the fins or the helium, it feels fantastic. And remember I mentioned that you could push the Seaside harder. Here you can see that I'm laying into a turn and I felt like I could push as hard as I wanted into that. Once again, here we see a smaller section and it had slightly less speed, but that didn't affect the drive that the board gave me as I came out of that bottom turn. That electricity that this board has, you can really feel when you do turns like this. This board has so much spark, and for me it was my favourite of the two. Alright guys, so to wrap it all up, like I said, in my opinion, from my experience, if you're a surfer who wants a cruisier approach and wants to work on style and using their rail more effectively, then I would definitely recommend the Go Fish. It really enforced that rail work for me and having to focus on my technique. However, if you're an intermediate level surfer to advanced and beyond, I would recommend the Seaside. That's because it felt a lot more responsive to me and it allowed me to push a little bit harder in my turns, go into steeper sections and hold my rail more. Whereas the Go Fish felt like it might slip out from time to time in those sections. Guys, thanks for watching the video today. I hope that now you have a better idea of which board might be better for you and some considerations when you're choosing that board. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel and comment below to let us know what other videos you'd like to see. Thanks for watching guys, catch you in the surf. Do you guys love to surf? Well, so do I. Now you can check out my latest range of clothing called I Love Surf. And for a limited time only, with every purchase of I Love Surf clothing, you'll get a limited edition free How to Rip DVD. Go to ilovesurf.co and you can find a range of clothing to suit your needs.